heard
How are you?
I'm
doing pretty decent. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you
I
too.
like your hair. I don't think it's been like
I was waiting for you. I told everybody Blair is the only one that told me about my hair, but everybody told me about my hair. Thank you, baby. Thank you so much. Oh, so we got touch screen, but this is city council.
Well, we'll see if anybody.
Yeah, because
We got city council.
When you let us in. Yeah. Okay.
so,
1:30.
But we don't have the right thing on the screen.
yeah, you can put in, you can do another one. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for September the 6th. First order of business is to call the roll. Is there somebody here to do that?
Sheila?
Cheryl? Kyle?
Lloyd.
Kyle, somebody here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Are you ready? Lloyd Nichols.
Ready.
Here.
John Landis.
Here.
Blair Swain.
Here.
Beth Whitney.
Here.
Jimmy Reed.
Here.
Pamela Phoenix.
Present.
David Hudson.
Present. The Planning and Zoning Commission makes recommendations to the City Council. All items approved today will be heard by the City Council. This regular meeting on Wednesday, September the 28th, at commencing at 9 a.m. If you received a notice for this meeting, you also received a notice for the City Council meeting. Subdivision plats are approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission solely unless there is a request for waiver of escrow fees or construction. Only the City Council makes financial decisions. If any item is denied, the applicant has 10 calendar days to file a written appeal with the Planning Department. The appeal will then be acted upon by the City Council. If you're here to speak for or against an item, please state your name and address. For the record, comments should be limited to 5 minutes or less, although extensions of time may be granted by the chair upon request. At the conclusion of this meeting, we will have a workshop, and those workshops, like our council meetings, are open to the public. It will be held across the street at the Tyler Development Center, 423 West Ferguson, in the large conference room. The next order of business is consideration of the minutes from our last meeting, the meeting of August the 2nd. Commissioners had an opportunity to review those minutes. Any corrections or changes? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes from the August 2nd, 2022 meeting.
Second. Well, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. The first item on our agenda is a tabled item from our last meeting. Is that correct, Kyle?
Yes, sir.
S22-006 Geneco Investments Limited. Cronny?
Yeah,
Cronny,
well, I think we're
we need to take it
working
off.
on some technical issues right now. But yeah, since it was tabled, I think we'll have to make a vote to remove it from the,
Yeah, let's,
remove it from the table.
But, okay.
Yeah.
Motion's, is there a motion to remove this item from the
Mr.
table?
Chairman, I make a motion that we remove item S22-006.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to remove this item from the table and make it eligible for discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Tharani, are we waiting for, are you ready? Are we waiting?
I'm not sure if we have to wait.
Is
For-
this, is there discussion?
Yes.
Yes, there's a discussion. Yeah, we can get into that. It's just the PowerPoint's not
Up on the
transferring to the screens. So,
Okay.
Is it mandatory to have visuals?
no,
Let's talk.
it's helpful, but
Let's talk.
not mandatory.
Well,
We just like this, just the start.
yeah, if you
Yeah, let's talk.
Mr. King, can I go ahead and start with this one? All right, Tharani.
Okay. This is a special use request. This is a property that's located west of the intersection of Steel Road and Old Jacksonville Highway. If you look at the property in the aerial view, you could see that it is sandwiched between two properties that are outside the city limits, so that property is inside the city limits. The applicant is requesting the SUP to allow for an oil and gas drilling site. This item was tabled in the last meeting, mainly because we had concerns from the property owner itself, sharing some concerns on the special use permit. Since then, the property owner has withdrawn the protest, and so that's why the application is still moving forward. Let's recap, and I'll go through the contents of the SUP itself. Just looking at the location, zoning-wise, north and south, like I mentioned, it's outside the city limits, and the property to the east is an AR that's undeveloped currently, and the property to the west is all C2, and that's also undeveloped currently. So if you look at the area itself, it's mostly commercial and industrial. In Jan 2022, just in the beginning of this year, this subject property was annexed into the city limits as C1. So until before then, it was outside the city limits. So we are here because it was just annexed just in the beginning of this year by the property owner, and an applicant who's actually leasing the mineral rights from that property is requesting for an oil and gas drilling operations on the site. The part of the operations, there is a site plan in it, and it talks about what exactly is going on. So there is the drilling operations that's happening outside the city limits. There are 3 new wells that are going to be drilled, and storage and equipment for those operations are located on this property. So that's mostly the water and the oil storage tanks are located in this property. And in these tanks, water and oil tanks will serve to hold the volume produced by these new wells. And it's currently shaped like an L. They wanted that particular way because they, for the operations of when they do the drilling, and so for the vehicles to take the storage and then go back and leave, they say that that will be the good design for that. So that's shaped like an L, and since AR is located on the east, which is an adaptive reuse district, so there should be a buffer yard between the C1, and they are showing 20 feet buffer yard to the east, and also the entire property is surrounded by chain link and barbed wire fence. Looking at the master street plan, because we discussed this last time, the Rice Road extension, 2012 MSP shows the minor arterial Rice Road extension is proposed to go through that property. Since then, there's 2021 master street plan that is adopted by the MPO, that's Metropolitan Planning Organization. That shows that alignment goes to the north of this subject property, but it's not been adopted by the City Council yet. Also, the traffic engineer is evaluating potential routes to see if we could adopt that, and that they're also evaluating that. So just looking at this, there's also one more criteria to consider. The CIP projects, that is the capital improvement project that's evaluated on annually and is funded through the half-cent sales tax. They also look at projects like this, extensions, drainage studies, and all of this, and then they consider, and then they change the CIP projects. So currently, Rice Road extension is not in the CIP projects, but it could be in the future. So looking at the notices that was sent, out of 6 notices, no notices was received in favor and none in opposition to the request, even though we heard concerns from the adjacent property owners last time. None of them submitted like an actual protest. And at this time, when we heard from them, they did not have any concerns. So in August 2, 2022, we had the public hearing, and so since then they have not submitted any protest to the city. All the departments have reviewed the application, and the traffic could be a potential impact in the future just because of how the alignment's going to go of the Rice Road extension. So they have some concerns, probably not right now, but in the future. And other departments have reviewed the request, and they didn't have any concerns about it. So the staff has performed a technical review of the request and finds that it is consistent with the given criteria, since there's buffer yards, and then they meet all the other criteria for the special use permit. But since there are a lot of moving parts to it, the MSP and the CIP could be included, we recommend approving the special use permit for 1 year and only for the storage and equipment purposes only, and not for any drilling operations. So the staff recommends approval of the special use permit for 1 year for storage and equipment purposes only.
All right, Tharani. Any questions for Tharani? This is a moving sort of
Yes.
project, so changing project.
Yes. So we are recommending so that we can revisit annually to see how the conditions have changed and then make recommendations every year accordingly.
All right. Mr. Reed?
Tharani, during my tenure here, I've never done one of these or seen one of these before, and so I have a few questions. Do you know whether the applicant is planning temporary or permanent usage of this particular property for the storage and, what is that, equipment operations?
As of right now, it looks like they want to have it for permanent usage.
Okay.
As long as, the oil could produce and then they could store, so as long as the oil well is producing and there's operations going on, there would be the storage.
Then this would be here?
Yes.
Okay. And so at the expiration of the year, the year of operation, essentially, we would likely see this again, and then we could, based upon CIP or any other usage or any other plans for the city, that could be taken into consideration at that time, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay. And then the operations would have to cease,
If
or the storage and equipments would have to cease.
Yes, if that's the way the recommendation and the city council decides, or the planning and zoning commission decides, yes.
Okay. What about noise and proximity to residences and/or businesses that could be affected by drilling operations? Can you talk a little bit about that specifically?
Looking at that area itself, there are other oil wells that are in production. There are currently 2 oil wells to the south,
Okay.
owned by the same applicant that is having the same set of operations.
Okay.
And then also considering just this site, they have enough setback, and then they have enough buffer yard that they have provided. And also, if there's a lot of noise, they still need to meet the Unified Development Code. But at this time, we think that it meets our requirements, but in case if there's a lot of noise from the drilling aspect of it, they could still call the code enforcement and then go through the proper channels.
Same code enforcement operations as would be with any other business or residence in regards to timing of operations and noise pollution, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Any other questions? We're operating under a slightly different system here as far as public participation. I don't have any cards, so I'm just going to ask if there are persons here who want to speak on this item for or against. Yes, ma'am. If you'd come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Stacy Stoltz. I just wanted to vocalize some concerns I have about this project. If you look at the topography of the map, West Mud Creek runs right next to where they're doing the refining, where they currently have set up and where they're going to expand. West Mud Creek, since about 2002, has failed to meet the EPA standards for water quality, with high counts of aluminum, iron, magnesium, and nitrates, along with a lot of other things like bacteria. That could be coming from further up from the metal refinery. Usually those types of particles are seen from production like that. But my concern is the more I look at the map of Tyler, the more I see large chemical production facilities on our small creeks and rivers. And those creeks are diverted through everyone's neighborhood, through those drainage ditches, through channels where kids play, where dogs walk. And slowly but surely, I think we have put ourselves in maybe a predicament where we're not paying attention to these old creeks and watersheds. So that's my main concern, is that perhaps water testing could be done after that 1-year mark and making sure that everything is on par as we continue to find out what is actually the root cause of the large contaminations in West Mud Creek.
All right, Ms. Stills, thank you for your time and presence. Any questions for this witness?
No?
I do have a question for city
Yeah.
staff.
Yeah, I do as well.
I have a question. I'm sorry. How long, the research that you found, how long has it been in existence, the contamination with the water versus the drilling?
I can't find direct correlation when that company was founded because I couldn't drive up to it, I couldn't look, but I do believe it was Howe and Bake Engineering that owns that land. The studies that I've been able to find date back to 2002 when the EPA did get involved. There have been numerous grants to the city, along with a lot of other organizations that have tried to clean up West Mud Creek, increasing flow, but we continuously have sewage going into the creek. I know that there's a leak in my neighborhood personally. And then these high contaminations of metal that are seen in the ground but not at these levels that are considered alarming could be coming from further up at different refineries. But if you look at the map and you visually have to follow the little segments through all the neighborhoods, if you look all throughout the town, they are just speckled. So that's just, and I can email you all of the studies and findings, but if you just type in West Mud Creek water quality, you will find PDFs and full PowerPoints by other organizations who have worked on doing water quality testing here in Tyler.
Gotcha. Thanks so much.
Ms. Stolz, I do have a question for you. Does your information come from TCEQ, or what's the?
It's TCEQ, and then there's also another one with the University of Texas, I believe. I have a lot of that in my notes on my phone. I can send all of that information over to you.
And that's what you're citing is TCEQ.
Yes, and the
Fine.
EPAs and all of these other private people who have been working, because TCEQ is like the Texas branch.
Yes.
But then it also branches off into other departments. There have been multiple, like Watershed, Protection Company, or Protection Group. There's a lot of other groups. The more you find, the more they all say the same thing, that there is a huge issue with West Mud Creek, which does flow into East Lake Tyler, which is where we get our drinking water from. And high counts of all of these have been shown to have really adverse effects on humans. So I'm just afraid if we stop now, we may wind up exhausting one of our most beautiful resources that we have, and it's already in a state of turmoil at the moment.
Ms. Stolz, where do you live in proximity to this
I live
subject property?
above Westmont, like above Route 323, right a little bit further up, so it's actually not too far from my home.
Okay.
But I live at the beginning of the watershed of West Mud Creek.
Okay.
From the lower.
Inside the Louisville, Old Jacksonville area, right there.
Yeah, over in the Pollard area off of Fry.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Again, thank you for your time and presence here.
Thank you.
Are there others who, that's the only name that appears on my screen here for people who wish to speak? Are there others? Commissioner Thrani, Ms. Beth has a question for you.
So when it's reviewed each year, so when you come back next year, will it go through a complete review by engineering and?
Yes, it'll be a new application for special use permit again,
Okay.
and
So
we'll
it will
go
be
through the same
it will be
process.
reevaluated each year. And did they take some of these considerations, because they have been working, the city has been working with the EPA on water quality?
We can let them know.
But that, it sounds like that, it sounds like to me that's not typically a consideration or a department that would comment on this particular special use, this type of special use permit. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So we
but-
would have to manually make some kind of request or some kind of reminder that would need to be taken into consideration, or is that something that we stay out of?
You mean from the TCEQ?
Yes, yeah, meaning like if there were issues, if there were water quality issues, would that be taken into consideration on us making a recommendation for
Yeah.
a special use permit or no?
I would say the commission can use any information that they have to authorize, continued use of land. Which
Yes.
would be, in this case, what we're talking about is what's in the city, which is the storage.
Yes,
And so if there's anything that, anything that comes to light, they can also be revoked, if there's an issue that comes along. So that's why having kind of a short time frame is where staff is right now.
sure.
But yeah, I mean, the commission can take into consideration any information they have or request, even right now, if there's anything else that you all want to learn about or before making a decision, that's something you can do.
So was any of that information presented to city staff about any water quality issues with this particular case?
No.
No?
I believe they already started drilling those oil wells.
But that's outside of city limits?
Yes, yes,
But the storage facility would
The end.
yes, would
have
be
the
inside.
potential to affect,
Right.
I mean, that's where we are.
Yeah, but
So we already have a drilling operation underway.
Yes,
And the question is storage of products from that drilling, saltwater, oil.
yes, water and oil.
Gas too, right? Gas as well?
At this time, they're just showing the water and oil.
And at the end of the year, the Ronnie, they will come back before us and you'll make a determination whether or not it needs to be another year or 3 years or 5 years or what?
Yes,
But it appears that what's within our normal purview would not include a TCEQ evaluation, though, I guess is probably my point.
Kyle, would it, the information that was brought to us today about the contamination and all of that, would that affect what your recommendation would be? Because you said you all had no knowledge of it.
Well, I mean, I didn't hear any specific, I mean, obviously, this is not attributed to what's being proposed here. So, there might be something within the watershed that's causing whatever levels are present today. But, you can kind of attribute that to, or make that an issue with the current applicant. So to answer your question, no. I mean, I think if, obviously, we're not authorizing, we're recommending authorizing this land use, even if it causes, any issues environmentally. I mean, that's not something that, obviously, the recommendation would be for it to be done in accordance with all state and federal laws. So, so with that being, keep that in mind. I mean, that should be the thought going forward, is that that's the understanding, that there won't be any issues moving forward. So,
If we were to make a recommendation, could it specifically be to reach out to TCEQ specifically, or look into and research any reporting from this particular site that would be part of the special use, a potential renewal of the special use permit?
Well, if I can just reiterate what Kyle said earlier, the commission can make a decision for any reason or no reason at all.
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
Any other discussion or questions?
Well, it seems like whether we approve it today or down the road, the applicant is going to say, and I would believe them, that they're obligated to act in a way that's safe in accordance with the EPA and everything. So I don't know what could be found out or discovered that would make it, not approved, because they have to abide by the rules and laws anyway. So
Yeah, I'd
while
also
it's
add,
certainly important to think about, I don't know if we're gonna find a different conclusion than that they're gonna obey them.
I'd also add that anything that's been presented here today has not been, if the TCQ had issues or the EPA had issues with the water quality, we would be aware of that, and we're not aware of any, information from the TCQ asking us to correct that or to monitor that or anything like that.
Okay.
So when you ask if it's an issue that we should consider, it's not a known issue to the level of TCEQ asking the city to abate or do anything like that. So it's something, obviously, being an urban watershed that you're going to have, things like that going on. But I think, like I mentioned before, that the land use request here is to store oil and place water, salt water, and in conjunction with the drilling. So, and if that's all done in accordance with the law, and we revisit that next year or in a year, or if there's anything that causes concern within that time frame, it can be brought back up. That's kind of where we stand at the staff level.
Great.
Certainly the site has visits from TCQ
Yeah.
or whatever authority.
And it sounds like just by nature for federal and state environmental requirements that they would have normally, that we would be notified of those for those things on this particular site. So, okay.
Any other questions for city staff or Ms. Stills? Any other person here to speak? If not, is there a commissioner who'd like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve S22-006, stating no drilling on the subject property and only for storage and, remind me of the term again?
Storage and equipment.
And acutments
Equipment.
for a period of 1 year.
Storage and equipment.
Equipment?
Yeah.
Okay, storage and equipment.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarification.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That was a new term, acute.
The next item on our agenda is the ZA 22-001 Unified Development Code.
Okay.
Kyle?
Okay. And luckily, I don't really need a PowerPoint for this, but I know we're still.
It's good
down there
since we
working on it.
don't have one.
So, see how long I can take here, but, no, this is something that we have in the Unified Development Code. It's the renewal of the tax incentives that are, allocated to historic properties. So these are properties that have been designated as local landmarks in the city. The UDC has tax incentives. It's got two forms of incentives for those properties. The first is a 50% tax abatement on the value or the assessed value of any building or structure. That would be exempt from taxation on the city portion of the tax bill. And so that's actually the most common form of incentive that's utilized by historic property owners. And then the other one we have is, it's kind of time-bound, so maybe that's why we don't see it frequently used, but it's, it's an abatement on any of the increase, or abatement of, or 100% abatement of increased value for 5 years after like a major renovation is done to a historic property in accordance with, you know, the recommended guidelines for, again, restoring commercial, or historic property. And so to qualify for that, the property would have to be a historic landmark, and at least $30,000 worth of investment has to be made. And there's qualifying expenses like materials and labor and things like that. And after that's complete, whatever the rise in the value of the property, that rise is abated for 5 years to kind of offset the cost of doing that reinvestment. So that's the other form of incentive offered to historic property owners. Of the 121 properties eligible for tax abatement, there are currently 43 taking advantage of the 50% abatement program, which totaled, at least last year, totaled just over $8,500 or $8,500. And so it's not a large amount. Our tax rate is, you know, again, one of the lowest in the state. And so, but that is something that the thought process is that the savings is, you know, can be reinvested in the historic home, or also utilized when there is a repair that's needed that sometimes may be a little bit more costly to repair a window and then to replace it. So that's kind of the thought process behind that. So the UDC actually has a 5-year sunset on the historic tax abatement incentives, and so we're at that 5-year mark, and so we're just we're saying that staff's recommending that we approve or renew the existing incentives for another 5 years.
Thank you, Kyle. In terms of city ordinances, we're not doing anything new. We're simply extending what is
That's correct.
current policy.
Yes.
All right, I'm not sure that I have, if there's someone here who wishes to speak, but if there is a person who wishes to speak on this item for or against, we'd be glad to hear you. If not, any questions for Kyle? Commissioner would like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve ZH 22-001 for a
Second.
period of 5 years.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The policy is continued for another 5 years. Next is C 22-003, Pamela Phoenix. And as I understand, that item has been withdrawn.
Yes, sir.
And that being the case, there's no need to take any action. Okay, thank you. The next item is Z 22-054, C&O Acquisitions LLC. Thrani?
This is a PCD, which is Planned Commercial District Site Plan Amendment Request. This is a property that's located at the northeast intersection of Southwest Loop and West Elm Street. And the applicant is requesting the zone change to allow for an oil change facility. Looking at the zoning of the surrounding area, most of it north, east, and west is zone C2, and is developed with retail uses, that's commercial uses, and also there are single-family homes to the east. There's a neighborhood in there. The properties to the west, that's across the Loop 323, is also commercial C1 and commercial uses. For future land use guide, this area is mixed use center that would be consistent with the future land use guide. The subject property is actually 3 different lots, and in 2019, this was rezoned to PCD from R1A because there's one house to the east, that's one of the lot, and that was R1A, and then the front 2 properties that's fronting along the loop was C2, and they were changed the zone from C2 and R1A to PCD for Brahms ice cream and dairy store, and they had a site plan with it, and the site plan proposed a 30-foot buffer yard. It's a type B buffer yard along with the fence because there's homes to the east of the property, and the site plan was approved. And the applicant is requesting to modify that since the Brahms did not happen, and so they wanted to do an oil change facility. There's currently a restaurant, Mexican restaurant with the hat on it. You know, it's, I like that hat.
Jerry Jones did.
Everybody knows.
So they're changing to propose that. At this time, the staff had not received a complete site plan for review because they had some changes and it was not submitted to us on time, and so staff did not review this. And none of the other departments had reviewed this as well. But we did receive notices, and I'll talk about that. Out of the 14 notices that was sent, none was received in favor, and 2 in opposition to the request. It's from the neighborhood to the west for 4.19%. And the opposition had concern about the buffer yard and the property maintenance, and they did have some traffic concerns of where the commercial traffic is gonna go. Is it go through the neighborhood, or is it gonna be fronting off of the loop? And also they had some concerns about, they wanted to see know the scope of the project and some environmental concerns as well. So that's from the neighborhood to the east. At this time, staff had reviewed the request, and since we did not have a complete information or the site plan to review, we recommend tabling it for 30 days. The applicant is aware of it, and we're working with them on getting the site plan done.
All right. Any questions for Tharani? Go ahead. Pam.
Tharani, this is the lot right on the corner across from the Popeye?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, right on the corner?
Yes.
Okay, and they're
Plus the
taking,
cowboy hat too.
and the cowboy
Yes.
hat? Oh, they're taking all of that?
They're
Plus
taking
the
all
house
the three.
behind it.
Oh, they're taking that entire square?
Yes.
Ooh, for oil change, okay.
And Ronnie, will the neighborhood have an opportunity, because I remember this specifically, there were concerns from the residents, and will they have an opportunity to view this with city staff and or they'll just come next time?
There is someone who'd like to speak today, and we'll hear them at this time. I do have an indication that Glenda Stewart is here and would like to speak. Would you like to come forward and share with us? If you'd just state your name and address for the record.
Okay. I'm Glenda Stewart, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband, Ronald Stewart. We own the property at 3003 West Elm Street, which is right next door to the house at 3809. So our questions are, what are they gonna do with the house that's next door to our property? We saw where they requested to change zoning for the house and the cleaners, but we wanna know what they're gonna do with that property at 3809, because it sits right next to our house. And I seen a note, it says with the rezoning and property listed and anticipated business, what is specific plans for 3809 West Elm Street? Will the property be demolished, redeveloped, or renovated? And property owners we had to report them to the city for that 3809, because the lawn did not get mowed or anything, we had trash. And so the city finally got up there about a month later to mow the lawn, because we had people in the neighborhood stopping, wanting to know if the house was abandoned or what was going on. Says if the property is renovated, will there be a privacy fence structure to separate the business from the residential home at 3803 West Elm? We also have environmental concerns. Who would be responsible for monitoring the hazardous materials that are stored, like oil, automobile waste, and ensure that there is proper waste management, disposal, wash off, and disposal of waste in nearby grounds? And the business interests, where would the interest be, because there's current increased traffic in that area and lingering neighborhood construction that impedes a safe entrance and exit to private driveways located within the proposed zone change. One of my other concerns is because the business that was built across the street from us, there is a garbage pickup that's located within 10 feet of the neighbor's bedroom. And I live across the street, and sometime at 5:30 in the morning, they're slamming that garbage can. So our questions is, what are they gonna do with the house next door to us at 3009? Are they gonna develop that into a business later? Or just what are their plans? So those are my concerns.
Ms. Stewart, thank you for your time and presence. Any questions for Ms. Stewart? Thorani, do we have any information about the adjoining property?
I just received a site plan updated just a few hours ago, and in that, in the beginning, they did say that they were going to keep the house, but it looks like they're going to demolish and add it along with the site plan and provide parking and buffer yard for that. Since it's changing, we've been working with them until I receive a final site plan from them with all the information. I don't have all the information.
All right, thank you. Are there persons here who represent the person who's proposing this? Is somebody here representing the applicant? No. All right, any other questions for city staff?
I have a question for Thorani. Because the site plan that we have is part of our packet, I know that's not the final site plan, but it only shows the amendment portion. I'd like to see the overall site plan to what is going to be proposed, because I think, obviously, I think that, buffer changes or alterations are important. Location of trash facilities, so on and so forth. Because I remember this before as well, and then also cuts into the loop, and then ingress and egress too is obviously important. So does the new site plan that you have, does it include the old PCD area and then also the proposed change too?
It did include all the 3 lots, so the whole
Yes.
area, but the specifics of it was not there. It was just a sketch. So
Okay.
I still have to go let them know and work with them on what with the specifications of the site
Right.
plan.
But we'll see the overall picture, not just the portion that's going to change next month.
Yes, that is
If we
correct.
table
And
it.
we are interested in seeing the specifics.
Yes.
So let the owner know
Okay,
who's making the application.
yeah, sure.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Any other questions? Any questions, or anybody here who wishes to speak? Yes?
I just wanted to vocalize some concerns.
Ms. Fields, I'm sorry. Would you come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record? I know it seems redundant, but
Hi, I'm Stacy Stoltz. So I have concerns about this property as well. If you look at the topographical map, it's located right next to the watershed for Willowbrook Creek, which then flows into Bellwood Lake. There's a very deep ravine there. You can even see along the dividing areas of where the property is sectioned that there are drainage creeks running backwards, which means that that area does have a lot of water flowing through it. And you can also see the giant tube that runs under the road where the city of Tyler usually diverts a lot of this water. Again, my concerns are the environmental aspect of just the wash-off, runoff, or any, accident that someone could have, and how that could easily get into our water system in that location. There are plenty of other locations for places like this, just not where our water is.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the only thing I would like to add, is that, to take that into account whenever they're showing you the blueprints and everything.
Have
like
you
that.
met with the TECQ?
Yes, I have. I've met with a lot of people about these water issues, and so, I'm the one that's free on 1:30 on a Tuesday, so I'm here taking a stand. I really care about this a lot, and I've heard it from a lot of other local Tyler people that are concerned about the trees and the water, and if we don't say something, people don't really remember to look or check into that.
We appreciate your concern. We do.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
any other questions from the students? If not, again, thank you for your time and presence.
Thank you.
Are there others who wish to speak? If not, the staff recommendation is to table this for 30 days. Is that correct, Thorani?
Yes.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we table Z22-054 for 30 days.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to table this item for 30 days. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is PD 22-018, Hibbs Financial Center. Kyle?
Yes. This is a zone change request. This is on Shelley Drive. This is a request to change the zoning from RPO, restricted professional office district, in C1 light commercial district, to PCD planned commercial district with a final site plan. And again, this is this is on Shelley Drive, just west of Brookside Drive. This currently is an existing structure on the property with parking lot and everything like that. The applicant's requesting the change to develop, or to expand onto that building and to renovate it for indoor self-storage, climate control self-storage facility for that use. They're proposing the PCD to be limited to C1 uses and standards, which is light commercial. The requested use is actually, it's not allowed in C1, but is permitted in PCD and C2. The idea, I think, behind allowing in PCD is to allow it potentially in an area similar to, C1, but with the ability to have any stipulations placed on it, perhaps because of the surrounding properties. And so it may not be suitable in C1 by itself, but with other considerations, then that can be, discussed by the commission. The surrounding properties are zoned, to the west are zoned R1A, single family, and are developed with single family homes. To the north is zoned for office use and is currently undeveloped. It's the location of a large athletic field, or a lot of kids play there. And, it's currently undeveloped. To the east is C2, General Commercial District, and to the south is C1. They're all developed with commercial retail space. And then to the south is also some restaurant uses. The future land use guide identifies this area as single-family, medium, low density. It is the location of a commercial structure, so this would amend the future land use guide to general commercial, which would match the properties along the south loop there between Shelley Drive and the south loop. This is rather difficult without a site plan, but they are proposing the expansion of the current structure to the north. I think generally that's the thing that to note, is that it's being expanded to the north, in the northwest towards the residential uses. They are proposing to develop or to install a buffer yard that's required by code or by the UDC. And on the north side, I believe they do have a 19-foot buffer yard where 15 feet would be otherwise required. And so they do have a little bit more there. When we were evaluating the site plan, there was a little bit of confusion about the lot coverage and whether the property maintained the similar 60% lot coverage, or maximum 60%. And we did receive a site plan that clarified that it doesn't exceed the 60%. And they do have the minimum landscaping required, and actually added landscaping to the site where there's currently this parking lot and building. So one thing to note is that the building is proposed to be over an existing, or what appears to be an existing 42-inch storm sewer line on the northwest side of the property. The applicant has, I think they have been talking to our stormwater department about that and trying to get a locate for that, locate where it actually is. Until that's done, it's difficult for staff to recommend approval of the building being over that, potentially being over that line. So at this time, we want to recommend approval and perhaps tabling it for 30 days to kind of get that squared away. But my understanding is that it's probably within the next week or so that would be, located, and try to identify where the line is. And the applicant would have the choice then to, you know, either consider relocating it and see what goes into that, or to scale back the building and, you know, stay away from that storm sewer line, so.
I'm assuming the storm sewer is in an easement?
It doesn't look like it's in the easement, no. There's a 42, yeah, there's a 42-inch and a 36-inch pretty close to each other, so, and they come off of Shelley Drive and go south to the loop, so. And so, in speaking with the applicant's agent, they indicated that maybe if there is an issue with that, then they'd amend the site plan. I think moving forward right now, it'd probably be best to have that squared away before we do anything else. So, that would be staff's recommendation right now, is just to kind of hold off and see how that goes. We did receive letters from the neighbors in opposition to the request. We did receive 2 in opposition, actually 3 in opposition, with a total protest of 10.4%. These are from property owners to the homeowners to the west and northwest, generally concerned with the increase in traffic and noise from the development. Storage container or storage unit facility typically doesn't generate a whole lot of traffic when compared to other commercial land uses. But perhaps the type of traffic may be a little bit different with, you know, U-Hauls and other trailers and things like that. So there is that. And then there's also concerns about the impact of property values for the properties to the northwest. And so I believe there may be some neighbors here to voice their concern.
Thank you, Kyle. It is a little difficult to make a decision when we don't have a site plan or any other information.
Although,
Is there a person here representing the applicant? Yes, sir. If you'd come forward and state your name and address for the
I
record.
think he does have the site plan. Can you pull it up on the? Although it's not going to show up. Oh, yeah, pass it.
Brent Bradbury, 11621 County Road 166, on behalf of the applicant. And as that makes its way around, I mean, Kyle kind of summed that up. We have that existing stormwater easement. We don't know where, how big that is. But we kind of spoke with Kyle today and kind of agreed to, hey, if it cuts through and we can't relocate it, the building would shrink with the site plan amendment. But we don't know what we don't know. They've been busy with the recent rains to get out there and do the locate, so they haven't had a chance to get out there yet to do that. And we had a few other comments that probably differ from your packet that we've addressed with Kyle since the packet went out, mainly buffer yard and the delineation of the square footage. Yep. We had gross square footage, some that's 2-story, but not actual footprint, which got us down to that 60% lot coverage. So that was kind of the confusion there with the architect. So we got that cured today. So.
Mr. Bradbury, I have a question. So specifically going from C1 to PCD, but essentially it's a C2 use, right? Okay, all right. Does the site plan or anything else talk anything about outdoor signage or outdoor displays or anything? Because in my mind, that's one of the primary differences between C1 and C2.
Right.
And so can you speak on that a little bit?
Sure, yeah, we've limited any use to C1, which would no outdoor storage, display, anything like that, and it's indoor self-storage, so no entrance from, like you'd see the rows of self-storage where you pull up, enter, do your door, do your deal, and leave. So it's all encapsulated in the building, all inside, so no outdoor storage, display, anything like that.
Nothing like that. So only C1 uses, but allowing this particular.
Correct.
Shielded, I guess, would be a term or a description, just for the self-storage facility.
Right. The UDC doesn't spell out indoor or outdoor. It just kind of lists them all as self-storage, and
Okay.
so that's kind of making that delineation of it all indoor and putting that with its C1 uses.
Okay.
It's a little hard for me to read this exactly, but there is a drive off of Shelley.
Yes, sir. There is one drive off of Shelley.
And does that go all the way to the loop?
There's an existing easement that runs parallel to that building and then a building to the south, that retail center. So it was already kind of a platted easement there that runs north-south, I guess parallel to Brookside, which also would provide access from the loop to this site, which is already existing. I believe there's a daiquiri shop that's on the corner of that building.
Yeah.
So they use that as their drive-through, but
Right, so it does have access to the loop without having to drive, having to go through perhaps Shelley Drive. I mean, there's different ways through that area, but you're right, that's an important thing to note, that it does have that shared access south into the loop.
Kyle, can you remind me if there's a buffer yard difference between C1 and C2? Whether there's a difference in size?
I believe it's A and B.
I think they're both type B.
They're both type, so they're the same.
Right.
Same requirements for C1 and C2.
I belimet so, but yeah, we reviewed that. What they had proposed there was 15 feet on the west side, and now it's 19 feet on the north side, which met the criteria for that.
Okay.
And that's about where that stormwater potential line is, in that northwest corner of the property. So if that is there and we can't relocate it or can move it a little bit, that building would shrink in that northwest corner.
Okay. All right.
All right, any other questions for this gentleman? Thank you for your time and presence. I have an indication that Carolyn Nash would like to speak. Ms. Nash, if you'd come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Carolyn Nash. My husband Roger Nash and I live adjacent to this property in question about the change. We are totally not in favor of this zone change. We have owned our home since 1992. We were well aware when we purchased the home that the zoning was RPO. We had no issues with that at all. I am also a realtor with Coldwell Banker and have been for 30 years. I'm well aware of what will happen to the value of our property and the property across the street where the Brantons live. There were only 4 residential properties notified of this change. The others are commercial, RPO, some are even landlocked. They could care less what happens, but we do. And we know that it will affect the value of our property. There will be coming and goings of vehicles 24/7. And if this change were to be made, if this particular facility doesn't make it, then the change is done. It's over. We'll have no control over what goes there. So I'm here. We felt that we needed some type of representation here today, and the other folks are at work and couldn't make it, so that's why I'm here.
Thank you for your time and presence. Any questions for this witness?
Mrs. Nash, have you talked to Mr. Bradbury at all, or had any communication with the applicant?
The applicant,
For the zone change?
we received a letter.
Letter?
Yes.
You have?
I briefly spoke to him.
Okay.
And told him that when I got the letter before we got from the city.
Right.
I called him and said, we're not in favor of this.
Okay.
No, absolutely not. We're fine with it RPO, but once that zone change is made, it's done. It's over. No time. It could be anything.
Okay. Well, so it couldn't be anything because,
it couldn't, but it's going to affect our property values, period. Okay. And we pay taxes and a lot. And we just don't feel like this is what our neighborhood needs.
Okay.
Yes, the property is an eyesore. I agree with that. I'm really surprised the city hadn't condemned it by now. But anyway, we're not in favor of a zone change at all.
Okay. Kyle, the area where there's a protest is kind of dark. Is this the lady's property right here?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
We're right next door.
Right.
Right next door.
So this is the old Terry's gym, or is that's off Shelley? I mean, it was King's Academy at one point. It was a school.
Mm-hmm.
It's been all kinds of stuff, I think.
So.
Well, since we've been there 30 years, it was a church.
Yeah, it was a church.
And that's no, they're just there for a few hours and gone. But once the zone change is done for this type of facility, there'll be traffic coming and going, delivering, picking up. It'll be noise. And this is just not what we need in our neighborhood. It's just not. It's not the proper place for something like this.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Nash? Thank you for your time and
Thank you all,
presence.
appreciate it.
Is Jerome E. Branton here? Have a protest from Mr. Branton? Are there other persons who would like to speak on this item for or against? What was the staff's recommendation? Table it for 30
Yeah,
days.
tabling it to square away any of those other issues related to the building and the storm sewer line.
All right, Commissioners, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we table PD 22-018 for 30 days.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to table this item for 30 days. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The next item on our agenda is S22-008, Diana Lisea. Who's Kyle?
Yes, yes, sir. This is a request for a special use permit to allow for a one-chair beauty salon in addition to the existing single-family use. Actually, the beauty salon is also existing. It was approved under a previous special use permit. This is located on Sarasota Drive, just actually north of the Golden Road treatment plant. All the adjacent properties are zoned R1A and are developed as single-family homes, with the exception of the treatment facility, the water treatment plant. The property was granted a special use permit in 2017 to allow for the one-chair beauty salon. There have been no changes made to what was approved in 2017, and the applicant is seeking to continue that activity. Staff is not aware of any known issues since the last approval. When that was approved back then, there were concerns from neighbors with the activity before it started, and today there's no opposition, so there's that. We actually did receive one letter in favor of the request, and with that, staff recommends approval of the special use permit for a period of 10 years.
Great, thank you. Ms. Lisea, would you like to speak? Would you like to speak? Come to the microphone, please. We want the benefit of your appearance.
I'm Diana Lisea. I request for a special permit. I'm sorry, my English is not too good. So okay. This is going to be the third time to renew this one, and I don't know, I'm here too if you have any question for me.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Lisea?
Well, it seems like the neighborhood is fine with your shop.
Yeah. Everything is fine with my neighbors, I think so.
Okay, thank you for your time and presence. Are there other persons here who'd like to speak on this item for or against? If not, I have a card from Bobby J. Richardson, who was in favor. All right, any questions? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve S22-008 for a special use permit for the period of 10 years.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to grant a special use permit for 10 years. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Item's approved. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Next is Z22-055, Pacesetter Homes.
This is zone change from R1A, single-family residential district, to R1D, single-family attached and detached residential district. The applicant is requesting a zone change to develop single-family homes on 2 of the lots. I wish y'all were able to all see the maps, because I'm sure that would be a lot more helpful. But basically, yes, this is my first time without all the visuals. But this property is located at the southwest intersection of Rose Street and Duckenfeld Avenue. To the southeast and west, the adjacent properties are zoned R1A, single-family residential district. To the north is PMF, planned multifamily, and we actually had a zone change recently. It is a church. The future land use guide does identify this property as single-family, medium to low density. This would amend the future land use guide to single-family attached and detached, or single-family attached medium to high density instead of medium to low density. The applicant will develop the property with single-family homes, of course, and this zone change will add to the residences in the North End planning area. That is one of the Tyler First goals for North End revitalization. Currently, the lots don't meet the minimum lot size requirements, so changing the zone would bring the property into compliance for development. As of Friday, September 2nd, of the 24 notices mailed, none were returned in favor or opposition to the request. Staff has performed a technical review and recommends the zone change.
Thank you. Any questions for city staff? If not, are there persons here who'd like to speak on this item? I don't have any indication that there are. Any questions, commissioners? Does someone like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Z22-055.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item is approved. Next is Z22-056, Schultz Blue Ridge.
Yes, this is a zone change request from AG Agricultural District to C1 Light Commercial. It is located south of the southwest intersection of Blue Mountain Boulevard and Old Jacksonville Highway. The applicant is requesting the zone change to develop the property with commercial uses. To the north and east is zoned C1 Light Commercial. To the south is zoned AG Agricultural District and consists of a church. Also, I forgot to mention, to the north and east, it's also undeveloped. To the west is outside the city limits, but does have a church on that property. The future land use guide does identify this property as a mixed-use center, so this request would be consistent with the future land use guide. The applicant plans to develop the property with a shopping center. This zone change would be consistent with the rest of the commercial activity on Old Jacksonville Highway. As of Friday, September 2nd, of the 8 notices mailed, 1 notice was returned in favor and none were returned in opposition. Staff has performed technical review of this zone change request and staff recommends approval.
Right, any questions for city staff? If not, I've got a note here that we received a notice in the mail in favor of this.
Yes, the notice was received by one of the neighbors that were discussing that basically there is a demand for more commercial activity and shopping centers along Old Jacksonville, as that area is growing quite a bit.
Okay. Are there persons here who'd like to speak in favor of this application? Persons, yes, sir. We're anxious to hear what you have to say.
My name is Jay Schultz. My address is 14847 County Road 178 in Tyler. And I'm the one that would be selling the property, and it's going to be linked together with the property that's on the corner, and it would be used for a shopping center. And there were actually 3 people in favor because I hand delivered these to the city last Thursday, so I don't know what happened to the other 2. But I recognize the wording on what you just discussed, and that was on one of them. So anyway, there was 3 in favor of that. I'm not sure what happened. I dropped it off personally. But it would just be a good high-end shopping center on the corner. Open for any questions.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Schultz? Thank you for your time and presence. Are there others who would like to speak on this item for or against? If not, is there a commissioner who'd like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve Z22-056.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this item. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item's approved. That brings us to plats. Thorani, we've got 6 plats that look like they need some discussion. Would you go through those with us?
Yes.
F22-096.
This is a 2-lot subdivision. It's 1.65 acres. This is located in the ETJ of Tyler. The purpose is to subdivide 1 lot into 2. At this time, all the comments have been addressed, and staff recommends approval of this plat.
Great, thank you. Any questions for city staff? Are there persons here who'd like to speak on this plat? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve F22-096.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this plat. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That plat's approved. P22-032, Oak Hill Unit 29. Thorani?
Yes, this is a 30-lot subdivision. This 6.12 acres. This is northwest of Fresh, along Timber Way and Elkton Trail. And this was recently zone changed to PUR for single-family homes. At this time, the HOA documents was not submitted for the private street that's on there, and so staff recommends denial of this plat.
Are there persons here who'd like to speak on this plat? If not, questions for city staff. Staff recommendations deny. Any commissioner like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we deny P22-032.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to deny. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Plat's denied. Next is P22-033, BWS Acres Addition.
This is a plan for 12-lot subdivision. It's approximately 35 acres. This is also in the Zone 2 of ETJ, Tyler. For a 12-lot subdivision, all the staff comments have been addressed, and staff recommends this plat.
Any person here like to speak on this plat? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve P22-033.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this plat. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Plat's approved. Next is F22-095, BWS Acres Addition, final plat.
This is the same subdivision, but this is a final plat for the 12-lot subdivision. It's at the intersection of County Road 330 and 331, Zone 2. Staff recommends approval of this plat.
Persons here would like to speak on this plat. If not, Commissioner would like to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve F22-095.
Second. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Plat's approved. Next is F22-039, Eastern Acres Addition.
This is a 5-lot subdivision located at the western intersection of Jackie Avenue and Walnell Drive. The property is zoned R1A. It's inside the city limits of Tyler. They're subdividing 2 lots into 5 so that they can have 5 single-family homes. All the staff comments have been addressed, and staff recommends approval of this plat.
Great. Any questions for city staff or the persons here who'd like to speak on this item? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve F22-039.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Plat's approved. Next is F22-040, 0221, Little Bend Estates final plat.
This is a 7-lot subdivision, approximately 6.71 acres. This is located at the southeast intersection of County Road 46 and County Road 1295, closer to White House area. This is also located in the Zone 2 of Tyler ETJ. They're creating 7 lots off of this subdivision. All staff comments have been addressed, and staff recommends approval of the plat.
Great. Any person here wishes to speak on this plat? If not, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve F22-021.
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this plat. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Plat's approved. That brings us to consent plats. Group B, is the staff recommendation still to deny all 4 of these?
Yes.
So F22-0-100 Cascade Park Village final plat, F22-105 Chapel Hill Elementary School Unit 1 First Amendment, F22-106 Academia Heights Fifth Amendment, and F22-108 Ussery Edition final plat. These plats do not comply?
Yes, all the staff comments have not been addressed for these plats. It's different staff comments. So for technical reasons, we recommend denial of this plat.
All right. Any discussion? Any person here wishes to speak? Is there a motion to deny all 4 plats in the consent plats Group B?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we deny all 4 plats in the consent plats Group B.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? At this time, the commission will stand in recess and go across the street for our work session. Those meetings are open to the public, and any person here would like to attend is welcome to do so. And Kyle?
Yeah, I'd just like to add, so apologize today for the technical issue. We had a kind of a system failure here, so our IT department's going to work on that. So for the next meeting, for anybody watching today and anybody here, should be back to normal next month.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
I saw Benny earlier. I thought he was in charge of all this
Benny, the
stuff.
fixer.
I mean, he knows all the tech. Anyway, I'm sure things will be better next time.
Oh.